Hey guys, welcome back to another convo for Living Life Fearless. Today joining us is Pamelyn Chee. Thank you for
Hi,
joining us.
of course.
So you're here to talk about your just released movie Boogie by Eddie Huang. And I guess first thing I want to say to you is congrats on the release and everything.
Thank you.
And how has the response been so far?
I think the response has been pretty good because I don't think that the American audience has actually seen something that is unfiltered. This family and the world that Boogie is in is atypical of what we usually see on screen for Asian Americans. It's very vulgar, it's crude, it's always crossing the line. Everybody is kind of like on edge and they are not proper Asian characters. And I think this is kind of more a more realistic representation of who we really are.
Yeah, I definitely have some questions about that later on. I guess
Cool.
first of all, like how did the role come to you? How did you get approached for this? Did you and Eddie have like a working relationship before this, or?
No, I got a call for an audition and I saw this breakdown. And initially, for the role, they wanted a character that was smoking all the time. So I kind of played that. And the script, which I got for the audition, was actually in English, and they wanted something in both English and Mandarin. So I kind of translated that. And I think because I was the only one who gave him a foul mouth, cursing, smoking, vulgar, like kind of like rendition of this character. It was kind of like closer to what he had in mind because I grew up with eight crazy aunties on each side. So I've seen every permutation of crazy. So I just kind of like brought all these characters in and I combined them into one. And this was who she was.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, like you said, the vulgar and the, I guess, very outward personality that your character had, that was definitely like a standout for the movie for me, particularly because, like, as you pointed out, in most representation in mainstream movies for Asian and Asian moms and Asian women, it's kind of more of like demure and diminutive than
Right.
they're being so out there and out front as a leader, like in the actual like family as she was in this one. So,
So here's a crazy story for you. When I was like, I think 7 or 8 years old, a couple of my aunties were fighting, and one of them just took out the metal scissors from the sewing machine
uh,
and threatened to stab her sister in the eye, and they had to like pull them apart. And I always remember that fight, and it was one of these many, many fights. And because of that, I knew that this character could go very far. Like her edge was way above what everybody else's was. So yeah.
yeah, I definitely was. I was definitely taken a bit aback because I thought it was going to kind of follow that typical abusive father storyline, and then I feel like you kind of flipped it on its head a bit and made it more relatable as a whole. Like it's not just what it's always been portrayed as, and I think you guys did a really good job of portraying that kind of more realistic inner turmoil in a family that comes from all sides and not just one.
Thank you.
And I guess for researching for this role, I don't know if you like what was your process of researching for the role? Did you like since it's like a basketball movie and it's kind of set in a hip hop type of culture setting, which is where Eddie is very well known as. And I'm not sure if you were able to like catch older 90s hip hop movies because from watching this, I could definitely tell that he pulled a lot of influences from like those type of basketball movies, like Above the Rim and He Got Game and all type of movies like that.
I actually haven't seen too many of these hip hop basketball movies, but I kind of focus on the family dynamics of the relationship between the mother and the dad, and also the mother and the son. And it's interesting that some people came to me and said, "Wow, you hit him all the time. That's so abusive." But I'm like, dude, this is how we grew up. Like I got caned like a bunch of times. My mom used to whip my brother with a belt. So we learned that the punishment was not worth whatever we're trying to do, right? So if you're going to try to do something bad, hide it well.
Yes, as somebody who grew up with, two parents from the South, I definitely have a lot of experience with the belt whoopings and all
So
that.
you understand, right?
I
It doesn't mean they
completely
don't love
understand.
you, but they
Yes,
will whip you.
yes, I completely understand. So it didn't necessarily seem like over the top. It was just like I fully understand where this experience is coming from, and like I understand like how he's feeling about it. Just because, and like I said, even though you were hard on him in the movie, it never felt like he resented you for it because I feel like he always knew like the love and where it was coming from, and that's how a lot of us and a lot of my friends grew up with our parents too. So
It's cool that there are so many similarities between cultures. I think that for the white audience, that's a little bit too much because that's not how they educate their children. But then I feel like in other cultures, it's much more common to get hit, and that's not a sign of like lack of love.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, the parallels between like particularly like hip hop and like the Asian culture, I feel like that's always been kind of something that's gone back since the early days of hip hop. And I think the way that he approached it in this way, it just felt really just real and authentic. And, sometimes when they try to create those things, they feel a bit forced. But I really feel like when I was watching it, it was kind of just like a regular day in a mixed neighborhood, like it would
Right.
really look like. And I think that was probably his biggest accomplishment for the movie for me was just how just regular the representation felt. Like it didn't feel like it was a caricature of anything. Like he wasn't out there wearing do rags or like sagging. Really, like he just loved the culture and was just embraced by it. Like you would see on a typical day. It's just you
Yeah,
kind of influenced by what you're around.
no, because I also feel like Eddie didn't compromise. This was his world, right? He didn't try to filter it. It was the good, the bad, and the ugly, and it was exactly who he was. So that's why it had a more authentic feel. He wasn't really trying hard to achieve anything. This is his world, untainted.
Yeah, and I guess there's a lot of conversation, especially about like Asian Americans and like being and like their presence in America and how they're represented in America. And I wonder if you feel like there's a shift coming like in Hollywood, particularly like mainstream films, because you have films like Minari that came out recently that also touched on, the American dream and like coming here and like kind of finding your way between the two different cultures, even though it comes from a different perspective, it's still kind of talking about that American dream from an Asian perspective. And I don't think we've necessarily gotten so much in the more mainstream than we have.
Mm-hmm. Well, so everybody comes here for a reason. We're all immigrants. Everybody comes here in hope of a better life, in hope of freedom. This is a country where you could literally be anybody you wanted to be if you worked hard enough, is what I truly believed. And I believe that there is freedom here. And that is why a lot of Asians, particularly, are very in awe of the idea of America.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, how did you make your way to America, and like how did you make your way to filmmaking?
I had gotten a scholarship to NYU, and then I stayed on. I tried to be an actor, and I got casted in a Wayne Wang film very early on, and then I kind of like was back and forth Asia and the US just working, and then I finally made my transition back to the US. But it was kind of like during those college days that gave me a way to become an American citizen. And I really appreciate the fact that I am an American citizen because it gives me so much more freedom. And I truly feel like I can breathe here because this is going to sound very strange, but people who live on both sides will understand. It's very, you always feel like people are watching you when you live in Asia and you can't really breathe. I mean, you've lived abroad too. I don't know if you have the same kind of experience, right? It's a different kind of freedom. Here, I feel like I can breathe. I can just be myself, and it doesn't matter what it is. I am less judged for who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I definitely understand the feeling like when you go to somewhere else that's not necessarily all that you've ever seen or been around, people, they approach you a little bit differently. And I definitely understand that feeling. How was it like working with Taylor Takahashi? I believe this was like his first role as in a movie.
He was great. I think he was so he was the character, so there was not really any acting involved.
Mhm.
And because we had spent about a week just like hanging out and rehearsing before the shoot started, that the family dynamic was already there. So on the first day of shooting, we didn't have to do anything. You know, we knew who we were to each other, and and he was very good. He could play ball, and I was like, damn, this is my son, right? This is the kind of asshole that would totally be my son in the film. He was like arrogant, he was rude, he just didn't give a shit. And that was who the whole family, they were just all like that, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Like I said, I keep going back to the authentic feeling that I got from the movie, particularly when it comes from like the basketball side, because I grew up playing basketball myself. And the worst part about having a basketball movie is seeing somebody that clearly has no idea how to play the game, but then he's just forcing to act like it, and it never really comes across realistically. But I really felt like in this movie it did in a lot of parts, and
Oh, cool.
that was definitely a plus. And it's also Eddie's first directorial debut as a as a director. So what was the experience with him, and kind of what was like the learning process? Because I know working is different with each time with the different director, and like what was it like with him?
I think when we first started, he was a little shocked by the way I worked because I kept throwing ideas at him. And to me, I'm just like throwing spaghetti on the wall and whatever sticks, sticks, right? But I think he had never worked with an actor who was like, hey, Eddie, what about this? How about that? And can you do this? And, on the second day of shoot, he was like, Pamelyn, you got any more ideas for me today? So, I think slowly he got used to the way we work, and there was so much trust, and I was able to really push the limits of the character to do justice to the story that he wrote. And I really have a lot of respect for Eddie, because one day we were shooting this scene where I ended up slapping Taylor, but that was not in the script. And halfway through the setup, Eddie came over to me and he said, oh, me and Taylor both think that you should slap him. I was like, okay, but because the way the camera is set up, I was wearing a lot of rings and jewelry on my left hand. I told him that I might scratch him or hurt his face. I'm not sure if this is a good idea. Yeah. And he said, without even hesitating, just try it on me, you know? So as the kind of person who will never hesitate to slap somebody if they ask for it, I just gave you a big slap there and then. And then he was like, all right, it's fine, let's take it. I was like, okay. I had never had a director come up to me and say, try it on me, you know? So I had to take the chance to slap Eddie Huang.
Hey, I'm sure there's a lot of actors out there who envy you, who wish they could slap their director while they've been working with them. So it's you can hold that over a lot of people. Hey, I got to slap the director that also paid me to be in the movie. So
that's true.
And I guess another thing, particularly for like me coming from kind of a hip hop background, is he had a lot of like guest appearances and guest features in there. And one of the major ones was Pop Smoke. And unfortunately, like he passed away tragically, you know. So what was like, I don't know, you guys didn't have that many scenes together in the movie, but I don't know what like your experience was the time that you guys did have around each other with him.
So, we don't really have any direct interaction in the film, but every time I watch him, he has an energy that resonates from deep within the gut. He doesn't really have to do anything, you know, it's all there, and the camera just picks it up. And when they were doing the scene in a basketball court where they were taunting each other and they just suddenly broke up into a fight, I was like, holy shit, that just felt so real to me as it happened. I thought these 20 kids were going to like break into a real fight. Just when men come together just like that, it's very scary. And he was magnetic. I think there was something about him that you could tell, okay, this guy is a star, right? He doesn't have to speak. He doesn't have to do anything. He just is.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely came across in the scenes, even when he wasn't like speaking, he was giving looks and, you know, just his presence on the film. And I obviously that was something that translated to his outside life as a musician. Like a lot of people were definitely magnetically drawn to him. So I think he did an amazing job for being like his first, you know, movie and role.
Yeah.
And what else did I have? I had a couple other questions. Kind of just in regards to like Asians and Asian American Asians in film, what would you like to see kind of be the future and like the next step to keep getting more representation, more authentic feel from, your side of the culture?
Okay, this is going to sound very strange, but I feel like for so many years, it's always been that the best person did not get the job. Maybe the half Asian got the job or the white person got the job because that was just the majority, right?
Yeah.
But if it had been that the most suitable person and the best person for the job gets the job, then it would be fair for everybody. And that's what I think we all want.
Yeah.
We don't want any special favors. We just want that if we are the best person, that we get a chance to do the job.
Yeah.
And I think that's just more fair across the board for all races, and it would ensure that people strive for excellence. As an athlete, I know you can understand that.
Definitely.
Because the best person has to always get the job. This is the only way to ensure that the quality of the production and the stories are like not compromised.
Yeah. Agreed, 1000%. And
Yep.
I also like, hopefully they give more creative people like Eddie an opportunity to bring these stories to film, because he's like, you've seen, once you give these people these opportunities, they create something great, like he did with Fresh Off the Boat, and he did with all his TV shows, and now he's doing with the movies. And I think if you give the actual people the opportunities to create, then I think we will start to see like a more fair and equitable, role in Hollywood, especially in film.
For sure.
And so I know the rollout is a lot different compared to what it normally would be because of COVID and restrictions and everything. But how have you guys kind of been handling things with the rollout and following along with that?
Well, it's just all been Zoom, which is good and bad. I don't think there's a choice. Everybody just sort of has to adjust to this. But I think the lockdown and just everybody being at home has actually transpired into more people watching content. So that's actually a good thing for us, I think, because there's really nothing else to do. You can't go out. You're just like consuming at home.
Yeah. And do you have any like future roles coming up after this one? Would you like to work with Eddie again or anything else?
Oh, I would love to work with Eddie again. But I just signed on to do a play about redemption and hope, playing a blind prostitute, and I'm terrified of being on stage. I've not been on stage for maybe 20 years, but I'm on a quest to do the thing that scares me the most all the time. So I think that's the only way to ensure that we're constantly growing.
Yeah. Okay. So I didn't know you were a stage actor as well. So
I'm not at all. That's the thing. But my friend who wrote an original play has convinced me that this would be a good idea. Yeah.
What would you say like the biggest challenges and differences between, acting on film and acting on stage would be?
The radiation of energy is different. I think as an actor, the camera picks up the beam that goes out of you, right? But I feel like on stage, maybe you would have to change that so it goes wider and longer.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And do you have any advice for people trying to break into the industry?
Yes, don't listen to advice. Do what you want to do and deal with the consequences, because I was just talking to somebody else about this. At some point, you have to decide in your life if you're the sum of your dreams or you're the sum of your backup plan. And if your life is just the sum of your backup plan, go do that. But if it is the sum of your dreams, just go pursue your dreams, because you only really live once. And the what if at the end of your life is just way more terrible than anything else I can imagine.
There you go. You heard her.
Yeah.
So where can people check out Boogie? Where can people check out your other roles you've had?
Well, follow me on Instagram. I'll be posting my updates for future roles there. And I think I have a bunch of films all out in various parts of Netflix Asia and stuff, but I don't think you can access it here. So that's that.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll put all the details down below. Congratulations once again
Thank
on
you.
the release of Boogie. I definitely felt the authenticity of it, and I really hope to see like more films that represent, you know, other sides of the culture, particularly like Asian culture. And you know, I love to see that other people get another shot on screen. And I think that you were definitely a highlight from the film. I think you
Thank you.
ate up a lot of scenes when you were in. Couldn't look away, and we'll definitely keep up with you and stay tuned.
Thank you. It was nice chatting. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.